Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your love and your energy. I invite you now to just take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Breathing in cool, calming oxygen. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Let go of any stress or tension you may be holding in your body. Let go of any worries and doubts you may be holding in your mind. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath. Breathing in cool, calm of the day. And as you breathe out, please allow your body to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept.
I accept.
Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and sharing confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I wrote down some stuff today, which I may or may not. Yeah. I think I may get to it. But let me begin by saying, welcome back, Brian. Now, Brian has been here since he took his spill, but he's been hiding out. See, he's been back in the baby's room. He was back there for Ruth's memorial. He was back there for Sunday, and then gradually you began to make your way down the aisle. A couple of weeks ago, you were about where Marissa is now, and now you've taken the plunge. And once you get Brian on stage, you can't get him off stage. Yeah. So, and Jeffrey, I love the guitar. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And I love the shimmy that you did too while you were playing. You got to put some body into it. Well, I welcome you here this morning, and those of you watching online, we're trying out a new iPad, new to us, and then we're going to. I want you to know that your spiritual center is very frugal and very very conservative. So we borrowed David's iPad to see if we like it, and if we like it, we'll go invest in one, because we're going to try to get HD for the people watching at home, or H or D.
You're promising a lot right now, Jesse. You're promising a lot right now.
I'm promising a lot. Okay, that's my motto for the rest of the year is overpromise and underdeliver.
There you go. There you go.
Well, no? Okay. New Thought is a body of teachings that includes this thing called religious science, and religious science is what you've happened into today. As they say on United, if religious science is not in your plans this morning, this would be the time to disembark to another gate that's offering. But religious science, unity, divine science, and a number of independent teachings all come under the heading of New Thought. New Thought has centers, it has practitioners, it has ministers. Before it had ministers, it had practitioners, at least in religious science. And it's a body of thought that suggests that there is a divine intention occurring that you can use, and that at the same time is using you. There is power for good in the universe greater than you are, right where you are, that you can use, and that, I promise you, is using you, whether you know it or not. And the point then is to know it. The point then is to be aware of it, that there is something moving through you into form constantly that's building the world that we live in. Now, this New Thought teaching was started largely by women. About 70% of the early teachers of New Thought when it arose in the 19th. And why I'm telling you all of this is a series on New Thought women, and it's continuing all through the month of April. New Thought women pioneered this teaching for us, really. Although this particular organization was founded by a man named Ernest Holmes, while that's true, around him were his mother, his wife, his cousin Idella Chadwick, and his niece, Josephine Holmes Curtis, along with 3 of his brothers, and I don't know who else, aunts and uncles and other various and sundry relatives of his who made their way west from New England, where he was from. But today, I'm bringing you some information from Josephine Holmes Curtis, his niece, the daughter of Ernest's brother Guy Holmes, who lived from, Josephine did, from 1905 to 1978 and was for around 20 years, I think, editor of Religious Science Monthly, which became the Science of Mind magazine. And she wrote a book, and she wrote book reviews, and she was a teacher as well in the classes. In fact, they had very much the same kind of relationship that I have with Lisa, Reverend Lisa, and Reverend David, and Danielle, and our other practitioners. They mix and match stuff. Say, you want to take this? If you'll take this class, then I'll handle this over here, you know. So like while one of us is writing, another one of us is speaking, and another one of us is teaching, and everybody is heading in the same direction, but they're all bringing their individual energies to it. That was how it worked, and it worked really, really well for well, really up until all of these people began to move off the planet. New generations of teachers like me and others who've come after came along. So Josephine Holmes Curtis wrote a line that jumped out at me that totally perplexed the music program about how responsibility begins and ends. And you guys did terrific, you know, trying to pull something out of that musically, topically. Responsibility begins and ends. And then I heard Danielle in the inner healing experience mention responsibility. I now take responsibility for my choices, take responsibility for my actions. Well, that's a good thing, and you and I were taught responsibility early on. But what Josephine, I won't give her whole name every time, I'll just say Josephine. That's a cool name, isn't it, Josephine? What Josephine had to say is, we take too much responsibility where we should surrender. We take too much responsibility, and we become anxious and fearful, worrisome, and I would add neurotic, where we ought to surrender. There's a power for good in the universe right where we are that receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. That's what her uncle Ernest said. A power for good in the universe that receives the direct impress of our thought, and the direct impress of our thought is our responsibility, and beyond that, not so much. Not so much. In terms of working with spiritual law, we think we have to finesse the thing. We think, you've heard the expression of worry something along. We think we have to worry the thing along. I have a plan, I have an idea, I have a goal, I have an ambition, so I have to think about it, I have to worry it, and turn it over in my mind, and turn it over in my mind, and find myself envisioning how I would feel if it never happened. And then sit with that kind of bilious sort of feeling about it never happening, unaware that in doing so, I'm directing spiritual law along certain lines to deliver what I do not want. And it's perfectly happy to deliver what we do not want, and it's perfectly happy to not deliver what we do want. It's perfectly happy. It's perfectly content. Spiritual law is just to be what it is for us in our lives, and the use that we make of it is up to us. But then after we make the use, after we make the choice, we can tend to gum up the works. Or as Emerson put it, he said, you get your bloated nothingness in the way of the divine circuits. He said, get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits for the divine circuits to fully operate. We get in there and we mix it up with this stuff, and we think more about what we do not wish to experience than about what we do wish to experience, and we give our emotion to it, and spiritual law has no choice but to work on what we've given it. As a matter of fact, you could say spiritual law has no choice, period. It kind of does, but within the parameters of what conscious choice hands off to it. I think of it now as like a search engine. You give it a certain idea, and it takes it and runs. If you enter, I looked up Josephine Holmes in an Excel spreadsheet that I have of New Thought writings last night. I entered it, not found. What was I going to do? Tomorrow morning, I have to tell these people something about her. I knew it was here. I've seen it before. It's not here. What happened? I spelled it Josephone. Okay. It didn't come back to me like some programs will and say, do you mean maybe
Yes.
Josephine?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just like, nope, not here. And I could have sat there. I could have still been sitting there saying, life no longer works. The whole thing is a lie because I can't find what I need and I deserve it. When in fact, do you remember when email was new? And people would approximate each other's email addresses. Like way back in the day, when I was a little kid or before, you'd say, well, the Smith family lives on Main Street. The mail carrier's going to know where they are. So if I get the number wrong, it's no big deal. I mean, how many Smiths are there on Main Street? And they've lived there for years. Way back in the day, you could put city on. Is anyone here like old enough to remember that? Instead of putting Spring, Texas or Houston, Texas or something, you could, so it's a Main Street city. And it meant it was within, you know, this is way before zip codes and stuff. Well, the same mentality of this, oh, they'll know where it went into email. And people would say, well, you know, if they're not with, I don't know, Gmail or whatever they had at the time, you know, it'll get there. Well, it didn't, did it? And when it bounced, we were like, oh, they don't like me anymore. Like they blocked us or, you know, it was something deliberate like this. So and people are like, I'm never going to understand technology. All it asks from you is precision, a greater degree of attention being paid, perhaps, than before, for the idea to be communicated, effectively communicated. All spiritual law asks from us is some degree of precision, and then we can let the thing go. In my experience, the problem has not been that we don't have goals. People get yelled at. People yell at other people. There's a lot of yelling at other people going on right now in the culture, you may have noticed. And people are like, you ought to have goals. You know, you're just sitting there. Get up, go do something, and make something of yourself, and have a program, have a plan, you know, for your life. And well, in my experience, people don't lack goals. They don't lack ambition. They don't lack plans. They just haven't learned how to let go, how to trust that when they've done their part, something else will do its part. And its part is vast. Because I always come back to this. We never know where our good is coming from. Ever. Ever. We never know where our good is coming from. We can play our hunches and every now and then be right and think it's coming from here, and it does come from here, but that doesn't mean that suddenly we have figured out how the whole universe works. It means on that particular guess, we got lucky. We got lucky. There was a basketball game. It's March Madness. Now, that's why we had the TV set up to watch U of H, but they're not playing. There was a big game in the March Madness thing, and an underdog won. This is last night or the night before, and the coach of the losing team is getting a lot of heat today. I won't name names. You can look this up. Doesn't matter. But he's getting a lot of heat today because he said a couple of times he mentioned they were lucky because they made the winning team made a couple of wild shots that went in. And people are like, oh, he's a sore loser, you know. Well, I saw those shots. They were lucky. But also what was back of that was hours and hours and years and years and years of practice to get themselves, these players, into the position where they narrowed the window of luck. They narrowed the possibilities here. That it wasn't like you or me or somebody off the street just throwing a ball at a hoop hoping it goes in. No, there's a lot of practice that goes into it. So sometimes we get right about where our good is coming from, but it doesn't mean we figured things out, because other times, in fact, most of the time, where your good is coming from is the other side of the planet right now, or out of thin air. Out of thin air. And one thing I have determined for myself is that no air is really thin. It's loaded with power, loaded with energy. Ernest Holmes, Josephine's uncle, said that too. He said the very air crackles with power. Isn't that great? That's a writer's word. He doesn't say the very air has a lot of power in it. He says it crackles with power. You can feel that, right? The very air on a day like this when there's weather, you know, it's like you can feel the heaviness, the humidity. You can feel there's something here happening, standing under these lights and all of this electricity around us. Well, the air like that, the spiritual air, is loaded with power. Our good is coming out of thick air. Our good is coming out of the unseen realm most of the time. And we trust that. And I don't know why it's so hard for us to trust it, except we've been educated not to. We've been educated to figure things out and to see how everything unfolds, to have a formula, basically, by which everything occurs. When, in fact, most everything comes out of, at some point, all things come out of the unseen realm. And today, for you and me, most things are coming out of the unseen realm. I don't know where the next word out of my mouth is coming from. I've given this subject a lot of thought, and, you know, I had a job to do. I had a talk to prepare today to get up and give to you, but I don't know what I'm going to say next. Okay? But it won't be entirely random, unless it is. It will be somehow connected to all of this. Because I make a commitment when I get up here on Sunday, I want you to hear, it's not so much about what I say, it's about, I want you to hear what you need to hear, whether I say it or not. Because if I don't say it, if nobody says it, and there are 4 or 5 of us speak in the course of a service, not counting music, if nobody says it, you can still hear it because you brought it in with you, and it's coming up through your own spiritual wisdom, through that pipeline. It's coming out of the unseen. The next idea you're going to have is going to come out of the unseen. The next goal, the next purpose, and so on. And then I was sitting there, again, while Danielle was taking us through the inner healing experience, and I was looking at this, our circle in V, which is a symbol of this branch of New Thought called religious science, or Centers for Spiritual Living. We've had that for about 20 years standing there now. And I look at this, I looked at it, and then I closed my eyes, and you know what? I still saw it. You do, right? You see it in reverse on your retinas. And then it gradually began to fade, and vision returned to normal. But I thought, that's a nice metaphor. That's a nice metaphor. Because if I don't say it, if nobody says it, and there's 4 or 5 of us speak in the course of a service, not counting music, you know, it's like you can feel that, right? The very air on a day like this when there's weather, you know, it's like you can feel there's something here happening, standing under these lights and all of this electricity around us. Well, it won't be entirely random, unless it is. It will be somehow that I could carry that with me on the backs of my eyelids throughout my week. The recognition of spirit descending into form, producing something. Phillip Pullman, who I've been reading more of lately, said, spirit is what matter does. I love that. Spirit is what matter does. We look at matter, we rearrange matter, we think that matter creates matter. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed, we were taught years ago. But matter doesn't generate matter. The immaterial generates matter. Where did atoms come from? We don't know. Where did subatomic particles come from? We don't know. The Big Bang or through a black hole or what have you. But where does the next idea come from? It's not simply a rearrangement of brain cells. It's an inspiration of a higher plane. And that's spirit mattering into form in some way. So everything, this means that what comes next is coming out of spirit into material form. And it also means that what's presently in material form has come out of spirit. If what is presently in material form has come out of spirit, as well as what's coming next is coming out of spirit, then there's nothing that's not spiritual, is there? There's nothing that's not related to spirit. And if everything is in fact spiritual, then everything has the same solution. Everything obeys the same laws. Everything is approachable and manageable. And while it may disturb us, surprise us, astonish us, frighten us, and so on, it's all part of the same whole system of spirit moving through form on this plane to then do what it inevitably does, which is recycle itself back into spirit. Without going, that's a talk for another Sunday, but without going down that rabbit hole too far, you know, everything that comes into form is on its way out of form. Right? Everything is kind of queued up. It's waiting here, and it comes into form, and now it's in form. We say, hey, look, it's in form. I got a new this, you know. Let me show you my new, I don't know, guitars. And here, you know, here they are. And those beautiful guitars, they're on their way back out of form. I said it was another Sunday, but you're getting some of it anyway. They're redistributing themselves back into pure potential. Back of them was an idea. Back of the idea was a feeling. The feeling of music and so on. Okay? So everything, so the point here is to trust. And so I made a list of a few things, just a few things. We're not going to keep you long, and there's food today too. Isn't that exciting? All right, so muscle memory, spiritual muscle memory. These are antidotes for over-attachment to worry and anxiety and you know, just hanging on to things, the responsibility to make sure everything works out just so. Just trust your muscle memory, your spiritual muscle memory. If there was one thing I could imprint upon the consciousness of every person I meet, like a true fanatic, okay? Like a true, you do not want to sit next to me on an airplane. Like a true fanatic, one thing I could imprint is develop a regular daily spiritual practice. Because that's how you build spiritual muscle memory. Otherwise, we're like, whoa, prayer, treatment, I've heard of this. Where was that again? And I'm looking it up like Josephine Holmes. And now I've heard of this thing, and where was that again, and who do I call? But if I have a regular daily spiritual practice, I have the muscle memory. I know what to do. I look at what disturbs me or pleases me or frightens me or what have you, and I say to myself the same things. There is one life. There is one life. That life is spirit. That life is all the life there is. And I really like what that life is doing right here, and I really don't like what that life is doing right here. And there is one life, and that life is my life to engage in and create through. And so I now speak my word along specific lines to this particular point. And then I do that. And then I feel a sense of gratitude, and then I let the thing go. So we develop muscle memory. What the situation calls for, that's another thing. We over-rehearse, don't we? Well, now I have to talk to this person on Tuesday about this, and it's quite possible that they're going to be difficult, and they're going to say this and this, and if they do that, I'm going to get mad. And then I'm going to come back with this, and then if I come back with that, then they're going to escalate the situation, and I'm going to be hard-pressed not to slap them. And I'm not a violent person. So, all of this happening right now in an armchair. They're not here. It's not happening, except there. In what they call, this is not a pun. It sort of is, but it's not really. This is called your temples. You know? This is called, right, the house of the Creator is where this is. And so I'm sitting there and I'm over-rehearsing this thing, expecting trouble, because if all goes well, oh, this is another talk. If all goes well, I don't have the same adrenaline kick as if things don't. There's a whole spiritual psychology and psychology around creating conflict for the purpose of having excitement, for the purpose of feeling something. All right? So just file that away and be aware that that's the propensity that we can have. But what this is suggesting here is to deal with the situation on the situation's own terms by living in the moment. I will let the moment take care of itself. If I feel I'm being misunderstood, I will know what to say. If I feel things are going the wrong direction, I will, but meantime, I'm just going to stand in my truth. I'm just going to stand in my truth, and I'm not going to bow up and amp up and prepare for all kinds of trouble. I'm just going to let the situation be what it is. And sometimes the situation requires, and this is a hard one to swallow, it requires no input from us at all. And that's not just another talk, that's a whole month right there of it's none of our business. Yes. It's none of our business. So much of what goes on, we're peering over other people's, well, no, they shouldn't be in this and this. And you know who's guilty of that more than anyone else? Organized religion. Organized religion invented that, I think. Of peering into everybody else's life and having making some kind of a judgment about it. And then you get a committee together, and now you've got consensus, and then it becomes truth. You see, that's how. And when in fact it's just annoyance to start with. Okay, divine circuits. I already mentioned divine circuits. The divine circuits. Phillip Pullman, in the Book of Dust, Part 2, which I'm almost finished with. He's not a friend of organized religion either, as you probably have heard, although he's by no means an atheist at all. He's very much, I think, in sync with what this teaching has to offer. And he's a novelist. You can look him up, read his work if you're interested. But he talks about it, and he says in his, not necessarily in his belief as the author, but in the belief system of his principal characters in this book. He says there's the spiritual realm, or the realm of spirit, and the realm of matter. And he said the realm of spirit has its own agenda. It's not here to serve the realm of matter. It's not just here as a vending machine kind of law that says, oh, somebody's going to want to do something, and we'll get it teed up for them. It's not just here to provide us on this earth plane with answers. It has its own thing going on, which is a great mystery to us, in the same way that what's going on in the consciousness of the family that lives next door to you is a great mystery to you. Unless you know them and hang out with them a lot, in which case think of the family across the street or around the corner, right? And so they have their own agenda, and they're doing what they do, and they think what they think, and they believe what they believe. But on Tuesday, it's trash day. And they bring their cans to the curb, and you bring your cans to the curb. And in this way, I'm playing off what he said. In this way, this is where our agendas overlap. The realm of spirit and the realm of matter, sometimes what it wants at the level of the realm of spirit intersects with what you want. And in fact, at some point, some part of it must be interacting with what you want. And what treatment does, what prayer does, is introduce you to that part of spirit whose agenda is aligned with yours. And it cuts through a lot of red tape to make that happen. Whereas if, on the other hand, you decide, you play bridge, right? Okay. What if Brian wanted 3 people to make a 4 of bridge, right? And he went around this room. I can tell you one person who wouldn't know how to play. And do you play bridge? Do we have 3 other people in here who play bridge? Yeah. We do. Well, you're in luck. But if I hadn't asked them, you'd have had to, right? And you had to go to each one. And if they weren't here, you'd have to start at the church next door, or go out on the street and flag down drivers. I mean, it could take a while. And then it's a matter of, do you want to play bridge with these people? Are they of the same? Because I know how bridge players are. Bridge players are like, are you of the same level of bridge ability that I am? Are you a triple grandmaster of duplicate something, you know? Because if you're not, tennis players are the same way too. It's like, you got to, well, so the thing is, and that's just for a game. What if it were, your whole life? We ask and we ask and we search the earth. Like, who is it, Diogenes with the lantern, looking for one honest man. We search the earth for somebody who has what we want. Spiritual law operating under its own agenda, intersecting with material mentality, I guess you'd say. It will connect you. It will connect you. It will connect you not simply with a scrap of paper or a cocktail napkin with a phone number on it, You'll run into that person at the supermarket. You'll strike up a conversation with a total stranger and find out that they have the missing piece to your puzzle as you have to theirs. For that one transactional moment, possibly for more. Are you willing to have it be that easy? And of course, the bluff gets called. Y'all call bluffs in bridge? No, that's poker. The bluff gets called when you put it out there, what it is you wish to create, and somebody shows up who has the missing piece. Well, now you're on stage. Now you have to do the thing, don't you? Whereas if only I'd met somebody, if only I'd had this idea back when these things were popular, if only, we tell ourselves these stories, but when all of that is swept aside, and there's this clear and confident knowing, and the universe has connected us with the idea as it's coming into form through some other mind, all of a sudden, we can't hide out anymore, and it's time to do the thing. I think, one more for you. Use your imagination. 2 more. Use your imagination. Okay, that's it. Use your imagination. It's there. We haven't been educated to do this. More on that next week. Your imagination. Last thing I want to bring you is this. People are yelling at each other. You need to find a purpose. You need to find a purpose. If you find a purpose, you'll be happy in this life. You need a purpose. Everybody needs a purpose. I submit to you, on behalf of the entire Holmes family, and particularly Josephine today, submit to the idea you have found your purpose and you're living it. You're living it. If you will cause yourself to feel, bring yourself to feel that you've found your purpose and you are living it, there's a word for that. It's a word that's very appropriate to this season in Christendom as Lent gives way, moves now into next week to Palm Sunday, into Easter, and it's this sacred time in the Christian world as Passover comes in the Jewish world, now in the holy month of Ramadan in the Muslim world. And Holi is in here too, the spring festival of Hinduism. So all of this spiritual celebration stuff going on, a word that's very appropriate to that, if you will feel as though you are living your life's purpose right now, you will consecrate your life. You will consecrate your life. When I was a young Episcopalian, they consecrated the host. They broke the wafer, reciting part of the Nicene Creed. It's a consecration. Before it was a material thing. It was a wafer out of a box that you got from the church supply company, I guess. You know, they come from somewhere, and you know, now it's right now it's yeah, you know, and the Benedictine and well, anyway, but they break the thing. And the night he was betrayed, so it's consecrated. It's no longer what it was. It's no longer just a food stuff. It's now a living metaphor of the living God of Christianity. Okay? So, no less a high and holy purpose is served when we look at our lives and say, right now, not when I get ready, not when my ship comes in, not when I have all the money I need or all the friends I want or any of the rest of that, but right now, today, without another moment having passed, I am living my purpose as the experience that Spirit, God Almighty, is having in this world at this time by means of me. Right now, I am living my purpose. And when you do that, it's not just a statement, it's not just a thing. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. Because the dam will break, you know, and all sorts of things will begin moving around you, and opportunities and options and connections, including things that you've overlooked. So that's enough for one day. You come back next week, as we move into April, month 2 of the women founders of New Thought. And you're going to hear from some that you've not heard of, just as you might not have heard of Josephine before today. Some exceptional ideas. So let's know together now, there is one life, one power, one presence. We know this. We feel it. We've come to this room today, actually or virtually, to have an experience of this one. And we have done so. And that experience does not end when we leave here. But we go out into our day, the rest of our weekend, our Monday, our work week, our school week, our travel week, whatever we're doing, with the imprint in consciousness, like this light behind me on the backs of our eyelids, the imprint in consciousness of this one life expressing through us and as us. We do make our choices. We accept our responsibility for being a stand for something in our lives and in the world. And then we surrender. And we step back in awe of a process that is timeless, infinite, and therefore everywhere present. Doing what needs to be done. We follow where it leads. We're excited about what is yet to come. We're excited about this very moment, where the very air crackles with power. This very moment, rich with possibility, and all that is to come of it. We stand in awe and astonishment of the great mystery unfolding itself into form. And for this, in this new season of spring, and this feeling of yes that wells up within us, I am and we are so deeply grateful. I release this word now into that one life, that one power, that one presence, calling it done, and so it is.
Thank you for coming, and for everyone else, thank you for being here yet again. We appreciate your love. We appreciate your energy, your support, and we also appreciate all monetary donations that you give to this center. It is because of what you give to us that we can be here giving back to you. So thank you for all of that. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
Okay. Did you tell them you were going to do that? Point 4 was imagine. Use your imagination.
No.
Wow. Talk about mind meld.
Yeah. I'm telling you. It's
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because I numbered your points and it was, according to my notes, use your imagination was number 4. And that is exactly what we do in treatment. We use our imagination. And then the last step, which is the step that a lot of us, we have one line, the release step. That's where we surrender. We surrender it to spirit. So I'm going to invite you into imagination. Centers for Spiritual Living, which is the greater organization of science of mind that we belong to. Our motto is a world that works for everybody. Can you imagine what that looks like? If you haven't ever thought about it, I encourage you to think about it now. What does a world that works for everybody look like? And let's go there in our imagination and impress that into spirit so spirit can get on that. So I encourage you now, take one nice deep breath and know with me that there is one power, one spirit, one life, one presence, one love. And from that love comes infinite variety. So we are that presence. Each and every one of us is that presence. That power is channeled through us. We are conduits for that love into the material realm. We are living that life. We are made from that spirit. And in that oneness, a world that works for everyone, where needs are easily and quickly met, where everyone knows love, where they have friendly interactions. And when things happen, as they do, resources are immediately on their way to meet that situation. Where love is the main thing. That warmth, that kind word, that hug, that gentleness. And I know this world. I dream this world. I live this world. I choose this world. I choose love at every opportunity. And I'm grateful for that choice. I'm also grateful for a place, a community, a teaching that teaches me the power of my being, the power of my choice, the power of the infinite love. I'm grateful for this community. I am grateful for these ministers. I am grateful for our practitioners. I am grateful for our musicians. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to broadcast this everywhere. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you. And I relax into this knowing. And I release it into that spirit with the full press of the knowledge of who I am. And I surrender it now to that which can do amazing things through us. And so it is.
So it is.
Through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. And so it is. I know.
Jeffrey, go in to turn it over again.